Hey, this is John Cena, and you are watching this WWE Fan 13.
Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to today's video. This video has been much requested since the last time I made this video many years back. So I decided to come back here today and make my top 5 nicest WWE wrestlers. And you guys are wondering, am I going to be doing an updated top 5 rudest wrestlers? I absolutely am, and that video will be going up next week. So with that being said, guys, let's get started with our top 5. I'm going to go from number 5 to number 1. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, all these people are so equally nice that it was hard to make a top, to choose who would be 1 to 5. They were all equally so nice. So take that as you will. But let's get started. So coming in at number 5, it might be a shock to some of you, but it is the one, the only, Randy Orton. He is honestly, genuinely so nice. He, when I met him, I had heard some stories about him, and I had heard some good stories and some bad stories. And so one of the stories I actually heard was from one of my brother's friends. Well, my brother told me the story that one of his friends met him kind of like on the road, and Orton was one of the super nice guys and was super cool. But I've also heard some stories that Orton was kind of a jerk. So the story of meeting Orton was back during WrestleMania. I want to say it was WrestleMania 33. My friend Vince and I, we were at WrestleMania, and we found out through one of our other friends, Brandon Hodge, that Randy Orton tickets were being resold the night before for super cheap prices. So what happens during WrestleMania sometimes, I don't know if it still works like this, but at least it used to, is if a wrestler had a VIP meet and greet, sometimes the night before, if they weren't selling, the seller would have to drop the prices because they would not want to lose money on it. So that is exactly what happened with us. We were able to snag 2 Randy Orton VIP meet and greets for, like, honestly, I think it was like less than $100, if I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't exactly remember the price, but I know it was really cheap, and we jumped on them as fast as we could. And so we went to go meet Orton. We went to the VIP meeting, to his VIP line. We waited in line. I was super nervous because I grew up a John Cena fan and a Randy Orton fan. That was like my childhood of my 2 favorite wrestlers, and I was just really hoping Orton would not be the jerk that people say he is. And so as we walk up to him, I'm literally like in like awe. I'm like, oh my god, like this is Randy Orton. But I'm trying to keep my composure, because you don't want to be that like oh my god, like you want to just have a conversation with them, And so I went to Orton and I said, you're one of my favorites. Like, I grew up watching you. Like, you were awesome. And he was just like super cool and super nice. And then I told him how I had been waiting to meet him because I got to meet John Cena for my Make-A-Wish. And then he's like, oh, you wish to meet Cena? Or no, he said John, sorry. You wish to meet John. He's a cool dude. Like, that's one of my best friends. And I was just kind of like, oh my gosh. Like, I was just like in shock. Like, I'm meeting Randy freaking Orton. And overall, he was super cool from like minute to end. Super nice guy. I would 100% meet him again. And if I ever have a chance to meet him again, I 100% would. Thinking back to what I had him sign, I'm pretty sure I had him signed my WWE Encyclopedia because, like I said, it was such a last minute meet and greet that I think all I had with me was my encyclopedia. But honestly, that's probably what I would have had him sign anyways, because you guys know, if you guys are longtime followers on my channel, that encyclopedia goes with me everywhere. So yeah, that's what I had him sign. And overall, guys, if you guys ever get to meet Orton, I 100% recommend it. Coming in at number 4 is your tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns was a super cool guy. I met him during WrestleMania 34 weekend, and I walked up to him, and this was before his cancer story came out. This is before any of us knew he had leukemia. So of course, me going up to him, it's crazy. So basically I go up to him, and at the time you could tell I was a little sick because there was some issues going on at the time. And he asked me, are you okay? Because I was like looking a little like, I didn't look too good sometimes. And I was like, oh, I'm good. I'm just undergoing treatment for cancer. And thinking back to it now, because at the time we didn't know no one knew he had a history of leukemia. But looking back at it now, something changed on his face. But it wasn't like your normal, like, someone finds out you have cancer, you feel bad for them and you want to give them a good experience. No. It looked like it resonated with him. And then I look back at the footage of me meeting him, and it just clicks so much more now that Roman, it's just crazy how, I know this is kind of off topic, but I just wanted to share this. Like, it's just crazy to think about a year or two a year later. I think that's when his leukemia came back. But just to think about the fact that like I had that interaction with him, and he just overall, even outside of that interaction, though, Roman was so nice. And it's hard. I'm trying to explain my interaction with him, and it's hard to understand if you have not been in that situation. But it's very hard to understand. But I can just tell it resonated with him in a different way, if that makes sense. But on top of that, Roman was super nice. He was like, he was talking to, and besides me, like he was talking to everybody. Like I had other friends meeting him that day. He was cool with everybody. He took his time talking to you. When the little kids went up to them, of course he was being, at the time he was good guy Roman. And overall, he was just super cool. He didn't rush through his VIP meet and greets. He took his time with everybody. He was super cool. He took time to like ask how you are. As you see, he literally picked up on the fact that I was not looking too good. And he even asked, like, do you need anything? Like, he took into his hands to make sure, like, I was okay. And not many wrestlers would do that. I can tell you from experience that, like, and then, don't get me wrong, it's not their job to make sure I'm okay. That's my job. That's my whoever I'm with's job. But the fact that he took that time to do that, that resonated with me a lot and always has. And then the year later, so when he did announce that he had a history of leukemia and is back, that hit me super hard. Like, I remember my mom and I were sitting in the room crying because, like, it hits you hard because you're thinking that person that you love to watch on TV is going through the immense pain that you just finished going through. But overall, I would 100% meet Roman again. He was super cool. Like, he was just, his energy was so good, and he just made everybody happy. Even the people who had, like, I don't like Roman Reigns, there's some people out there meeting him that, like, I hate Roman Reigns shirts or boo Roman Reigns shirts, and they came out happy meeting him. So that just shows, like, how cool of a guy he is. So coming in at number 3, she is not a quote-unquote wrestler. She is more of a manager, but she will be on this list till the day I die, and that is the one, the only, excuse me, Vickie Guerrero. For a fact. And sorry, Vickie, if you're seeing that's the worst impression of you that anyone could have ever done. I apologize. But, like, Vickie Guerrero is so cool. She is one of the coolest people I've ever met in my life. If you guys don't know, I am from El Paso, Texas. I live here, born here, raised here. And Vickie Guerrero used to live here along with her, deceased husband, and everyone knows Hall of Famer Eddie Guerrero. And, Vickie stayed around in the wrestling world. As you guys know, she's now in AEW. But, I've always been a big fan. As a kid, couldn't stand her. Vickie knows that. I already told her. As a kid, I could not stand you. But now, I love you. It's so crazy how you go from a little kid and you cannot stand her because she's always like, excuse me. And then she's like getting on your nerves. And now you just love her. And, I've met her, the first time I ever met her, I'm going to tell you a few different stories about Vickie. The first time I ever met her was in WrestleCon at WrestleMania 33 in Orlando. And I had emailed her like maybe a month before asking her if I could interview her for my channel. And I thought, long shot, she's busy. I think at the time she was in school. So I didn't think she would respond. And sadly, she didn't. But guys, it gets better. Watch. I get to WrestleCon. I had paid to meet her. I was going to meet her because I had never met her before. I go up to her and I just tell her, I don't even mention the email at all. I just said, hey, Vickie, blah, blah, blah. And he said, oh, I'm from El Paso as well. And the minute I said that, she was like, are you the one that emailed me? And I was like, oh, yeah, I am. And she's like, here, hold on. Let me get through my meet and greet and then we'll do the interview. And I was kind of like, oh, shoot. Like, and I understood she was busy with school. She was getting her degree. So I wasn't butthurt. Because, wrestlers have their own lives. They don't always have to respond to us, So the fact that she did look at my email and she took the time to say, hey, I couldn't get back to you, but hey, do you want to do it today? And so sure enough, she told me, come back in about an hour. Let me get through my meet and greet and then we'll do it. So sure enough, I came back about an hour later. And I got to do it. And if you guys check out my channel, there is the interview with her. My audio is not the best because I was not prepared because I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. So I didn't leave El Paso with any of my equipment. But nonetheless, it was still a cool experience. And during the video, she literally like yells like, excuse me, like during my video. One of my favorite parts of like all my YouTube clips. So that was the first time I met her. Second time I met her, it was a surprise. it was not, I was not expecting to meet her. And it was also the second time she was on my channel. So there was this podcast, and there was these two people. That one guy was a radio, like on the radio, and the other guy was like a friend of his, and they did a podcast, right? And apparently this guy Victor, who I'm friends with, he would always prank. I think the other guy's name was Charlie. I'm bad with names, but I know Victor just because I have him on Facebook. But Victor always used to prank Charlie about guests and wrestlers because Charlie didn't know wrestling like Victor does. And so Charlie, I think, got a hint from somewhere, or he kind of got he found out a little bit that Vickie was going to be coming on the show. And Victor always liked to troll Charlie, so Charlie wouldn't know what to talk about. That's what I kind of understood the story was. And so Charlie was trying to get back and surprise Victor by knowing information about Vickie Guerrero. And I guess somehow my video came up meeting Vickie in Orlando. And so Charlie knew my ex-girlfriend at the time, her family, and contacted me to come on the show. But what they told me was that I was going to come fill in for someone who couldn't make it on their podcast. And since I'm a young YouTuber with a good amount of subscribers in El Paso, they wanted to interview me. So they had me waiting outside, and sure enough, I walk into the room and Vickie is sitting there, and me and Vickie make eye contact, and we're like, we know each other. What the heck? And sure enough, I got to sit there with them and do the podcast with Vickie. And then they asked me if I wanted to do an interview with Vickie for my own channel. And they let me use their equipment that they have set up there. They let me use everything. And honestly, it was just such a cool experience. And then from that day on, I added Vickie on social medias, on her Facebooks, private Facebooks and all that stuff. And anytime I message her, we can talk, we chat. We always wish each other Merry Christmas. We talk to each other. It's very cool. And then I got to see her the third day. She was doing a signing for a local artist who would paint the entire Guerrero family underneath our freeway here, called the Spaghetti Bowl. There's like these long poles to hold up the bridges, and he was painting all the Guerreros on there, and Vickie went out there and did a autograph signing. So I did also go out there and do a video with her there. And if you guys want to see all these videos, they're all under my vlogs. Just type in Vickie Guerrero and you'll see. Just type in Miss WFan 13 Vickie Guerrero and you'll see all the videos with her. And honestly, to this day, I actually just messaged her a few days ago about a video I'm going to be doing, and you guys will be seeing the video that I'm going to be doing with her. She's not going to be directly in the video. She just did a lot of inspiration and helped me come up with the ideas for said video, which when that video comes, I will let you guys know. This is the video I did with Vickie. But overall, Vickie is just so cool, and I will forever be a Vickie Guerrero mark, and I stand by that. Alright guys, and coming in at number 2 is the one, the only, Becky Lynch. As you guys know, I'm a very huge Becky Lynch fan. I've talked to her on many occasions. I talked to her on Instagram, and she's always just been one of the coolest wrestlers I get to meet every time I meet her. As you guys know, I have met her numerous times. The first time being, I believe it was WrestleMania 32. When I went up to her, I told her, Becky, I'm such a big fan. I'm so glad to be meeting you. And one thing, guys, I always do, and I recommend you guys to start doing, is I always thank the wrestler for what they do. Many of them do not get thanked for what they do, and you guys are wondering, well, why thank them? Well, in my opinion, I know it's scripted. Clearly, yes, it's scripted, but many of them do get hurt. You guys have seen Paige's career be ruined. You guys saw Tyson Kidd. Samoa Joe was out for a long time. Big E is currently out. Stone Cold was gone for many years. There's just so many countless wrestlers who have had to just retire or put a lot of their career on hold. And so that's why I went to, and every wrestler I have met since that WrestleMania, that was the first WrestleMania I started doing this. I started thanking them for what they do and telling them how, it's helped me. And so when I went up to Becky, I told her, I'm a big fan. Thank you for what you do. I'm in the hospital all the time. And the only time I'm happy when I'm in the hospital is every Monday and Friday when Raw and SmackDown are on. And I can tell Becky was shocked that I thanked her, because she told me, no one's ever thanked us. She's like, I can't think of anyone who has ever thanked us. And I was like, well, yeah, you guys, I told her, I know it's scripted, but you guys go through a lot and you guys put on a show for us. So I just wanted to say thank you. And she was like, I can tell that resonated with her. And a few months later, or maybe a year later or so, I went to my first VIP experience. And sure enough, who was one of the ones who were signing for us? Becky. She walks out of the curtain. She looks around, but then she sees me and she stops. She literally stops. I wish I had footage of this. Maybe someone who went with me to that place has footage, but she stopped and looked at me and pointed at me. And she's like, I know you. Hold on. We'll talk right now. And I was like, oh shoot, she remembers me. And so I go up to her and she asked me, the first thing she says, how are you doing? How is your, because at the time I still had cancer. And she's like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And I was like, oh, I'm doing good, you know. And I was like, my mom, I'm about to get chemo next week, so I'm about to go. That's why I was doing the show. And then I had told her that last time when I met at WrestleMania, I was going to get chemo the next month. And she left. She's like, do you always plan a wrestling trip before your chemos? And I was like, yeah, pretty much, because that's what I used to do. Not like every chemo, because that happened like once a month. But as often as we could, I did. And so, you know, starting that day, she posted me on her Instagram. And, you know, ever since that day, she's, you know, she posts me on Instagram. I can message her. I can literally message her right now, guys, and she'll respond to me by tomorrow. Like, she is honestly so cool. I met her again in Tucson, Arizona. I've met her every WrestleMania after WrestleMania 32. I went to San Antonio when I met her, and every time I meet her, she always remembers me, and she always gives me one of the best experiences, and she's always checking up on me and saying how I'm doing. And overall, she is just so cool, and I'm just so glad to be a fan of Becky and, you know, get to meet her. So at honorable mention, I'm going to be talking to you guys about Chyna. I was able to meet Chyna before she passed away. About a year before she passed away, I met her at Alamo City Comic Con, and she was generally one of the nicest people. And when I met her, you know, I did have a lot of sores on my face, but I did not talk about the cancer because you don't want to talk about cancer, you know, when you're meeting the wrestlers, unless they specifically asked, like the way Roman did. So I was talking to Chyna. She just asked if I was okay because she saw the sores and she said they look painful. I said, yeah, I'm good. I have medicine for it. And that was the end of the conversation. She was cool. We talked for about 10 minutes. And that night, or no, a few nights later, I had to go home and get chemo. Back to, you know, I get to do an event before chemo. And I had put on Twitter, I was sitting in the hospital getting chemo, and I was, you know, just a little bummed out, as you would be. And I, you know, what's it called? I posted on there saying, you know, it sucks getting chemo, but I'm so glad I was able to meet Chyna. And I tagged her in it. And I was just venting. I was upset in the hospital. And Chyna messaged me that night saying, Kayla, why didn't you tell me? Is that why you had those sores on your mouth? You know, if you ever need anything, message me. And from that day on, she would message me at least once a month asking to see if I was okay. And that is why Chyna resonates as one of the nicest people I've ever met. And if you guys were able to meet Chyna, I hope you guys had such a good experience. And she was just such an amazing person. Coming in at number 1, to no surprise, I'm literally wearing his t-shirt. It is the one, the only, John Cena. As you guys know, I met John Cena for my Make-A-Wish. I have been a fan of John Cena since I was about 6 years old, I believe. That was around the time. I literally remember him debuting as Prototype and then doing his transition to, like, you know, Chain Gang and Dr. Thugonomics. And I've always been a fan. And I remember when I first got cancer, I was 17 years old. And they told me, the two child life specialists, their names are Anna and Peggy. They asked me, and the time when they asked me, I was in pretty rough shape. Like, I almost died. So I was in the ICU. So they asked me, you know, you can do Make-A-Wish, but we'll come back to you when you're feeling better so you can think about it. And I told them that night, no, guys, I want to meet John Cena. And they're like, oh, no, we'll come back to you when you're feeling better. And I was like, no, I'm serious. And they're like, no, we're going to come back. And I understand why they did it. But in my head, I was like, no, I know what I want. And so they come back about a month later and they're like, okay, we're back. What do you want to do for your Make-A-Wish? We can start the paperwork. I said, I want to meet John Cena. I was like, I told you guys then, I want to meet Cena. I've tried to meet Cena for so many years prior to that. I could never meet him. His tickets sold out. He didn't do much meet and greets. And so I told him, I want to meet Cena. So sure enough, we started the paperwork. I was able to choose where I went to go meet Cena. I chose in Anaheim, California, because they were going to be going to I believe it was the Honda Center. It's either the Honda Center or the Toyota Center that's there. I always get confused between that stadium and the one in Houston. But I want to say it's the Honda Center. And in my head, the reason why I picked that was because I was like, you know, I can go to Disneyland or to Universal. And sure enough, I got to meet John Cena. I also did go to Universal and Disneyland. But back to John Cena, you know, he gave us front row seats to the show. If you guys go to, I believe it's August... It's the show where they had the Hall of Fame panel, and John Cena had just lost his belt to Brock Lesnar. I think it was either August 15th or August 25th, 2014, where they had the Hall of Fame panel with Hogan, Michaels, and I think Flair, and then John Cena comes out and interrupts. It's that Raw. And, you know, I'll put it on the screen which Monday Night Raw it was. But, you know, you guys at the end can see him come up to me and give me a hug and give my family high fives and whatnot. But, you know, when I met him, I remember they got us there early to the show, like 3 hours early. They took us in a limo as well. And, I was, dressed in, at the time, the neon John Cena stuff because I hadn't gotten the new red stuff yet. This was the shirt during my Make-A-Wish. I had the neon gear he had. And I was sitting there and they brought us in like this room. I guess where maybe they had the executives have meetings, like whoever owned that building. And I'm sitting there in the main chair, and behind me is a door, and in front of me is a door. So I didn't know what door he was going to come in. So I'm just sitting there. I have all my stuff that I wanted to sign. I'm talking to my brother, my sister, my nephew. I'm nervous as heck. And I just remember all of a sudden my brother, he's a very calm guy. Very, very calm. But I just remember seeing him go. And I looked at him, I was like, what, Corey? And I turn around. I look at John Cena. I immediately start crying. Immediately. No time was wasted until these tears started coming out, guys. I was bawling. And I don't think he was surprised because, he's met so many kids. I'm sure many people have cried meeting him. But he asked me, like, why are you crying? And I was like, I've loved you so much since I was 6 years old. Your whole motto, never give up, resonated more than you think it does with people. Like, every time I went to go get chemo, I was wearing a John Cena shirt. Would never give. My freaking nurses know how much of a John Cena fan I am. Whenever my nurses got me gifts, it was always John Cena stuff. And I'm just crying. And I just told them, then we sat down, and I'm trying not to cry more as I'm talking to him. And I started telling him my story. And John Cena, I swear, you guys, on everything, he started crying, and he told me, give me 1 second. And he turned around because my story, it's a story. I don't really want to go into it, but it was a really bad time. And he just started crying. And also I was just telling him, every Monday I would see you on TV, and it made everything better. Okay. I tried not to, but anyways, and I just told him it made everything better. I don't know how to explain it. It just, everything was better when I was watching him on TV. And, it was going to WrestleMania and seeing him, and, I have all his stuff, and he saw all my collection of his stuff, and I even had a figure he didn't even know they made. And, and that whole experience, I have videos on my Make-A-Wish if you guys want to go check them out. I have a story time of meeting him. I think I made the story time a week after I met him. So if you guys want to go check that out, just for a warning, I am crying in the video as I'm trying not to cry now. But John Cena will always be up there, number one, number two with Becky. And if I could meet John Cena again, I 100% would. And I would love just to meet him again because it's John Cena. And if you guys have been following my channel for so many years, you guys know how much of a big John Cena fan I am. And if you guys are new, that recording you hear John Cena at the beginning saying, this is John Cena and you're watching Mr. Fan 13, that is not edited, that is not faked. That is the real John Cena giving a little promo to my channel. And in my original videos, older videos, you could actually see the clip of me and him standing next to each other and him doing it. But yeah, John Cena will always be my number one favorite wrestler in all history, and always be probably number one I've ever met. And yeah, guys. So with that being said, guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. Comment down below who are your guys' top 5 favorite wrestlers that you guys have ever met. And if you guys have not had a chance to meet any wrestlers, who is your guys' favorite on my top 5 list? And which experience of mine did you think was the coolest? So with that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. And I will see you guys in the next video.
Are you a supporter of the Marine Corps?
Absolutely.
Great, because a former decorated member of the United States Marine Corps needs your support.
And his name